All right. So with that, I'm going to do one more introduction again, and I'm going to welcome Dominic and Kathryn. Kathryn, hello. I know you're on mute right now.
Yeah.
And Dominic, hello. So
yes.
Thank you for joining us today. I put a topic in there, so you probably didn't know that, but I made a topic I called Taking Your Career Fairs to the Next Level. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can go ahead and just tell us what we can do to help make a great career fair.
All righty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share our slide deck here. So thank you for the introduction, Eric. My name is Dominic Lowe. I'm the principal at East Kentwood Freshman Campus, formerly assistant principal at the 1012 building, as Eric had mentioned before. Kathryn is one of our school counselors and at the time was department chair, I suppose. And so we're here today to share some stuff. Eric, you must have admitted that person. So we've got some slides that we've sort of prepared as a talking point, maybe as a launching point for some of this today. We started our, what we call our Future Fest in 2018. That was our first, and I remember posting pictures to Facebook about the first annual and getting a lot of flack from some former students about you can't have a first annual if you haven't had a second one yet. So I took a little bit of criticism for that, but in 2018, we started our Future Fest. We are 2 campuses that are joined by a parking lot in between. So between the 2 campuses, we've got about 2,500 students as a rough approximate. That's probably a little low if I'm being honest. And so we started the year in the fall, and we were talking about getting our kids an opportunity to see themselves in their future. And one of the things that our school counseling office has been working on, and our KSSN team, which is Kent School Services Network, that we have a partnership with, we've been talking a lot about how do we get kids to see themselves in their future. And because we know that engaged students will do much better in school, they're more connected, and they see the path to their future. So we wanted to go big, and we've done some teachers in industry programs with Eric through the ISD. And we thought, well, this is cool for teachers to go out and see some things, but what we really want is we want for kids to have an opportunity to see what's out there. And so we started calling on some local businesses and local vendors. We ended up in the neighborhood of about 150 vendors, and we'll talk more about the vendor booths in just a little bit. We had some keynote speakers that came in and addressed our students in the auditorium. And then we had a number of reverse job shadows. And so we ran all of that stuff under one roof. And the amount of logistical planning that we put into organizing all this, I shouldn't say we, that Kathryn and her team and the school counseling office put into organizing this was tremendous. But when you look at the amount of just really engaged and motivated kids coming out of that experience, you know, we certainly think that the opportunity was worth it. So I'm going to start kind of bring you up to speed. And I don't know if my, I don't know, Eric, is my gallery view, is that covering up the screen or is that separate?
No, I see the screen. So,
okay, good.
Yeah,
good. Okay.
Yeah, I know you don't have to worry about it on your end.
Okay, perfect. So for the first one, we started with what we wanted to do in 2018 is we wanted to bring in all of these vendors. And so we called some colleges, we called some local businesses, we connected with a whole bunch of different businesses in the community that had something to share for our kids, plastics recyclers, different manufacturing programs. Kentwood is sort of in the middle of an industrial area, and so there are a lot of manufacturing opportunities right here in our backyard, construction, Kent County Road Commission. And so I'll show you a list of some of the vendors here in a little while. So it'll kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we did. The first time we ran it, we just ran it all day. We had it open up in the field house. We have a great big field house, a very big space where we set up the vendors and the vendor booths. We invited elective teachers to participate. So we said, if you teach an elective, you know, because we have done it traditionally around the early parts of May. Sorry, my phone just rang. Anyway, so we originally had invited all these vendors. We said, hey, listen, if you're an elective teacher, just bring your students down. We'd love to have you. And We noticed that a lot of our seniors have a lot of elective classes. So about the third or fourth time that the seniors had come down to see the Future Fair, they were sort of done with it. So we realized that we probably need to do a little bit more with our planning. And so we kind of came back together and we said, let's see if we can make this better. Our vendors were kind of burned out because they've been a full day in the gymnasium with a bunch of kids. So all of those things led us to version 2.0, which is 2019. And I've talked a lot, so I'm going to turn it over to Kathryn, and I'm going to let her talk just a little bit about the next the next year.
So I was not actually involved in this in 2018 so much. We had a very young and maybe a bit naive KSSN director who said, let's do a career fair for everybody. And we had an even younger and even more naive college advisor who said, that sounds like a great idea. And administrators said, go, do it. So by 2019, they said, please help. And so it was literally the three of us who planned an entire day. And what we decided is that we wanted everybody in the school to have an opportunity, because we did have some younger students who did not have an elective, or their teacher didn't go, or they didn't have an opportunity. And so we decided we wanted everybody to participate. We made it a half-day schedule, and every single student had a conference schedule that they went to. So they spent about 45 to 50 minutes in the gym talking to the vendors. They spent about 45 minutes or so in the auditorium listening to speakers, and they spent 45 minutes or so in a classroom listening to doing a workshop or a reverse job shadow with somebody from the community, where it's a more focused activity. And so then we had to figure out, so we want all of the kids to get to do these three activities, but how? And so then it was a logistical challenge to get everybody where they needed to go at the right time with the right people. We invited the freshman campus to participate. We also invited our alternative school to come and participate. So ultimately, I think we probably ended up with about 2,800 students running through these three activities. So it was a lot, but it was kind of awesome at the same time. So our KSSN folks worked on the actual fair part using all available resources. So one of the things that they learned is my young friends learned to use their resources well. So we connected with the Kent ISD career team, who referred us to any number of career-based services, of people, found some vendors. We used some community connections to try to get people to come. And then for reverse job shadows, we actually did a partnership with Junior Achievement for them to find the people who would be in those 45-minute sessions that students would sign up for. So JA has a partnership with all sorts of different agencies and businesses and organizations. And so once we figured out who was willing to do one of the 45-minute sessions, then we sent a Google form to every single student and said, what are you most interested in? What would you like to do? Give us your top 3 choices. And then Jessica attached every kid to hopefully one of their choices. If they didn't answer, they got what we gave them. So we did have a couple of sessions from colleges as well. So it wasn't just from employers or from businesses. We had a couple of sessions that Eric and his group at the ISD led about choosing your career. We had somebody who came in and talked about mental health in the workplace. We had somebody from Consumers Energy. Like, there were lots of different possibilities. So, and then we assigned a staff member to each room to introduce the speaker and to do crowd control. After a long conversation between us, administration, we could not figure out how to get the freshmen both here for the whole thing and lunch. And so they we opted them out of the reverse job shadows because we just couldn't figure out the lunch problem. It wasn't even a session problem. We could find enough people to do sessions. We couldn't figure out how to feed everybody and get everything done. So the freshmen stayed at the freshman campus and came over for the last 2 hours.
And just to mention too, like one of the things, if I remember correctly, in 2018, or sorry, the second one, yeah, 2019.
19. Yep.
We had them working on something with their EDPs or doing something career focused in the freshman campus.
Yeah.
And then, so I just linked a couple of things in here just to give you an idea of the sampling. So remember, the workshops mostly were things that were pulled together from junior achievement, but like Kathryn said, we were able to find, like Kent ISD, for example, here came in and did something on job searching 101. And so really it was just a matter of finding volunteers, finding people that would be willing to do a workshop. Remember, because the first time we did it all day. The second time we did it, we had an opportunity to have all the vendors come into the field house and set up in the morning. And so they set up their booths, they got all their free things, because, anytime a college comes to visit with kids, they always bring lots of free stuff to give away. So that draws a lot of attention to their table. But again, these are all of the different workshops that we offered. And so I'm just going to kind of scroll as I'm screen sharing here so you can just kind of get an idea. We had roughly 32 different sessions that were breakout sessions that were set up. And again, like Kathryn said, we sent out a Google form. We said, sign up for your top choice, sign up for your second choice. We tried to fill the sessions. And if you noticed before, there were different color coded schemes. We made lanyards for each student with a very simple mail merge. I know Kathryn says it wasn't quite so simple, but a very simple mail merge. We were able to create a name tag for every student. So if you're in the red group, you started in this place, and then you went to this place, and then you went to this room for this job shadow. So I'm sorry, with a reverse job shadow. So from a logistics side, a lot of work on the front end, but like I said, this was a great opportunity for a kid to go in and talk with somebody in a business setting, get a better feel for their career, and who knows, may find a passion that they weren't quite sure that they had.
Yep.
So I have to move this on my screen so I can close it. All right.
Dom, I'm going to keep going because we're going to run out of time.
Oh, please. Yes.
So one of the things we learned is, number one, we didn't have the reverse job shadows or the breakout sessions. We're not necessarily people who had a connection to Kentwood. And we were a bit frustrated that people who were supposed to show up for our kids did not show up for our kids. And that was very frustrating. So had we been able to do this again in 2020, we were going to actually do this part on our own instead of having junior achievement do it, not because they did a terrible job, but we just felt like we would have better, we really, really need those people to show up when they say they're going to show up. And we decided that we should take charge of that, because then we'd have some ownership and they would have a connection to a staff member. We also increased the committee by a lot, because 3 people to plan this thing is not enough when you have another job. So that was one of the things. And teachers, despite a lot of communication, it's a hard time for teachers because it was about this time of year and they were exhausted and they needed a little more instruction. So that was that. So then let's move on to the keynote speakers. So here's the other thing, trying to find a keynote speaker that, number one, will hold the interest of students, and number two, doesn't ask for any money, is challenging because we don't have a budget necessarily. We did get some donations from those vendors. Like Lax Industries gave us a good amount of money to run the thing, but we also had other expenses that we had to, so we were looking for volunteers, and we decided that kids actually would be really excited about a TED Talk style thing, 15 to 17 minutes instead of listening to the same person for 45 minutes. So it was actually really interesting. So we just looked at the Grand Rapids Business Journal's 40 under 40. We looked for people we thought our kids would connect with. We have a very diverse student body. We wanted to have a very diverse group of speakers from all different professions, walks of life, people who have overcome challenges to say what they wanted to say to high school students. And it was actually pretty awesome. And then we tried to co-opt the public speaking classes into doing a real live presentation, which they actually really loved. And the public speaking teacher was excited about doing something where they weren't just speaking in the classroom, but they were speaking to an auditorium full of their peers. 3 speakers per rotation. We did have a smidge of a problem when a couple backed out at the last minute, but they were so gracious and wonderful. And one of the things I will mention is that we assigned a student council member to each of one of these speakers as their kind of host for the time, so that they had a personal liaison. Yep. All right, next one. Then for the vendor exhibits, I'm gonna let Don talk about that.
Yeah, so the vendor exhibits, like we talked about before, we tried to lean on colleges and universities. We have connections because we certainly have colleges and universities that send their people to us to often do, an hour-long workshop with kids that are interested in Grand Valley or Fair State or, Aquinas and so on. So we use the college recruitment specialists that come, and we ask them to set up a booth, and they were more than willing to do that. We talked with our military reps, and they were able to come in as long as they were being very careful about recruiting and maybe just helping kids understand more about what the program was. We leaned on the area chambers of commerce or area chamber of commerce here in Kentwood. The Kentwood Chamber of Commerce, we have other partnerships within the community. Our KSSN coordinator, again, was able to solicit some of our community partners to come in. With KSSN. We have often we'll have a student that has vision problems, and so they need to get glasses, and so they'll help coordinate that. And so they have a partnership already with a local optometrist to have our students, speak with that person. So the things that we talked about that we missed, we definitely should have included other school employees, other people that work for the district that we didn't even think about. Grounds crew, kitchen staff, those are viable employment options that we want our kids to consider. And so, we wish that was something that we would have considered. And again, students would like to have had a larger variety of career paths. Again, we're in a manufacturing community, so we had a good chunk of manufacturing in college, but we didn't really have as many opportunities for some of the other career pathways, in technology and those sorts. So anyway, just to kind of give you an idea of the crazy madhouse, this was a 360 picture. And then so it was a panoramic and it wouldn't fit on the screen. So this is our field house space. And so you can see the number of students, right? Your COVID meter is cringing right now, right? And so we had different programs from all over. Colleges we had in a certain area. We had the perimeter set up. This back corner that you see with the stop signs, that was Kent County Road Commission that came in and did a virtual simulation on how do you lay asphalt, which was tremendous. So here are some more close-ups of the kids actually engaging with some of the vendors. It's one of my favorite pictures, this young man in the fire gear over here. So anyway, those were, like I said, just a snapshot. I kind of buzzed through those pretty quickly because I know your time is valuable and I talk a lot. So anyway, so like Kathryn says, we wanted to really utilize our student leadership to do the vendor greeting. The first year we thought we had a very easy to understand map. We realized that it was not as well laid out as we thought. So we did a really good job of laying out a map. And we had each student standing at the front door. All of our student council kids were standing with gear that said Future Fest right on. So if a vendor came in the door, they said, oh, there's a person that can help me. And that student became their partner until they were set up. So they would help them carry things in, move things to their tables, help them set up things. So utilize your student supports for those. The hospitality room for both the vendors and the presenters, we were able to get some donations from a local restaurant that was donated a lot of pizza for our folks to grab something to eat because it is a long day staying in front of kids. Don't be afraid to ask for donations because local businesses want to employ your kids. They want your kids to get out of high school and they want to be able to employ them. So don't be afraid to ask, and the worst they can say is no. So
Right. That's good.
The last thing I wanted to share is a visitor guide. And when we're all done with this presentation, Eric's going to share out a folder that's got all of these resources in it. The only thing that I'll probably do is I'll probably redact the names of the teachers on the teacher spreadsheet. And I probably won't put the list of vendors out there for the reverse job shadows because I don't want to burn a bridge. Then again, many of you are not in our community, so I'm not sure it'll matter, but this was our visitor guide that we published, just put it together, and we had visitor guides that we sent to all of our Future Fest participants. And so it kind of gives you an idea of the layout of the day, the different workshops and things. Here are the different keynote speakers. But anyway, like I said, all of this will be included in the folder, so you'll have a chance to look at all of this. And with that said,
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, well, with 2020 being what it was, we were on our way getting started with some of the planning for last year. March hit and life stopped. And so our KSSN team did put together a virtual event, created a website, just using a simple wiki site. And we included a lot more about like resume building and career readiness. And obviously the kids didn't get the exact same experience, but we wanted to try to make it something that kids could still, participate in. So
I noticed that there was a question about, are we doing it again this year? We're not. This year. Will we do it again? Yes, the person who organized it originally had a great passion for it and spent many hours. We have 4 school counselors for 2,000 students and it's a challenge for the school counselors to find enough time to do something like this. So we really don't feel like as just a counseling department, we could pull this large of an event off without the support of others in the school. So we did have some real support from KSSN. We also had been eligible for a college advisor. We still have a college advisor on board next year. So we can utilize the college advisor as well, and they were more than willing. We had a plan as a school improvement committee, or as, we have something called passion projects here where people get to choose what they'd like to be involved in. And up to COVID, one of the passion projects was this. And we had a committee then where we had gathered about 8 teachers plus all the school counselors to work through a new plan that would be more manageable than the number of hours that the 3 of us spent to create the other there. And there were things we wanted to take more ownership of, like the breakout sessions. And we did want to honor the students' request that we represent a more variety of careers. They really felt like there were some pieces that were missing, particularly arts and more creative fields. And so we definitely wanted to represent those in the new plan. So will we go back to it? Maybe next year. We'll see. Right. Not this year.
Right. So there's a couple things I just made notes on, and I've already looked through all these, but a couple things that I just love. Number one is, and I think I saw a couple of people mentioning it. Amy says they're trying to do it in a smaller district, but trying to do something similar. And Kimber said for an online version, they did something a little bit different. But I love that you try to, after year one, if we had more time, I'd have a bunch of questions, like lessons learned. You shared a couple, but what I loved is that, like, from year 1 to year 2, it looks like it was quite a bit different. It went from a typical career fair, which probably a lot of people have experienced in some form or fashion. Kids just walk around. I love what Dominic mentioned, like at the beginning, you get kids going back 3 and 4 times. And what ends up becoming a problem? It becomes more of an issue than anything, right? Now you're dealing with discipline and stuff and management. But I love that you try to give student voice and choice to some of that when you're talking about doing those breakout sessions by allowing them to choose. And then you can kind of try to tailor some of those breakout sessions to that. I loved when you mentioned trying to get your students involved, like just different student leaders being involved in some way helps to share the responsibility, but also student ownership. And the kids would probably be more excited about it when they have roles. And I like that you just had this variety, the breakouts between an auditorium where guest speakers come in for short sessions, and then these workshops, which I think really truly are invaluable, and the career fair. So there was a lot of variety. Let's face it, a lot of rotating can be logistical issues, but the benefit of that is that they're constantly moving and they're not sitting around getting, like you said, bored. So I don't know if I see a couple of things coming out, if there were any questions, but.
So Eric, I have a question that I'd love to answer. This is something that we were really thinking about. are the students required to track or keep log of the vendors they visited? We did not require them to. We asked them to on the first year, and they would get like a prize or something. We actually, for this, after the second year, we're considering for last year when it didn't happen, to ask vendors not to bring giveaways. Because what we found is that the kids were literally just going to a booth, getting a giveaway, and not even asking a single question, and not finding out anything. They just wanted the ball, or they wanted a Frisbee, or they wanted whatever sticker or whatever. So we really were going to talk to vendors about, please don't give things away unless a kid asks a question. So they don't get something unless they give something. We also wanted to be much more intentional about, now that the teachers had seen it and participated in it, that then they could follow up. So it wasn't just a one-day event, it was a one-day event, and then the English classes or the classes would follow up with some kind of writing, some kind of debriefing, some kind of, you know, what did you learn? What are more questions that you have? Where are the resources you can use? So some kind of incorporation maybe into the curriculum. We tried to do some of that prep with teachers, but they weren't really envisioning what we were talking about. And so I don't know how many of them actually did that.
I'm glad, Kristen, that's a great question. That was actually the very question I had. Recognizing there's a ton on your plate just to get this going, but how do we get the teachers ahead of time thinking, what can I do to prep my kids? For a former language arts teacher, hey, you're going to be going and I'm going to expect you to ask X, Y, Z questions, and you're going to come back and do a quick write-up, even if it's just to compare career A to career B. You know, and they could do a compare and contrast. You know, even if it's just a quick write-up, what could we do, or how do you formulate great questions so that they're learning on their side? That would be another great step. What can we do to prep them ahead of time, as well as any type of follow-up? I know we're about out of time. I would love to ask more questions. I do need to just quickly share on the last couple slides here, but some great comments, a lot of people saying some good things, so I appreciate that. Let me just wrap up with my last couple slides, and I'll stick around if anybody has any follow-up questions. But I'm just gonna even go, let me just see it from right here. See if it's getting flipped my screen. All right, hopefully that's showing back up again. And I'm gonna slide that back down. So normally we do this upcoming PDs. Like, this is the second to last one. If you have not participated in our educators and industry, we have our last one scheduled for Wednesday. That is with Hope Network. So we're first time we get a chance to work with a nonprofit. They're going to come in and talk about several of different things that they do. They're involved in a lot of different areas. So if you've not signed up for that, that's going to be like an hour and a half on Wednesday from 9:15 to 10:30. Not even an hour and a half. So sign up for that one. Definitely, if you haven't done so, please take a moment to complete the survey. So, and I'll put this in the chat in just a moment. What I need to hear is this working? I know there's many of you are coming from outside of King County. Kathryn and I were talking at the beginning. She says, especially in a year like this year, these sessions that are 30, 45 minutes or whatever, it's going to be hard for me, even if I am in the county, to get out and spend 20 minutes driving each way, 30 minutes driving each way for half an hour. It's one thing when it's a full day event, but for some of these short and easy ones, as a counselor or for a teacher to just be able to jump in, I can do that. But I want your feedback. I want to hear from you. So I'll put that in the link. It's just bit.ly/ESS year. So Educator Spotlight Series year -end feedback 2021. I'll put that link in there. And then you need this. Everybody's looking for this. This is the bit.ly/ESS-SCECH. So that is the link to the survey in order to get credit. And you need this 6-digit code, 804-621, 804-621. And in about 15 seconds, 30 seconds, I will put that in the chat so you can just copy and paste that. As always, thank you so much for participating, for coming and being involved, asking questions, making comments. Thank you, Kathryn and Dominic, for your time today and sharing with us. We really appreciate that. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at eric.kelleher@kenisd.org. Hope to see you either Wednesday, or if not, based on your feedback, I'll decide whether I'm going to do some more of these next year. So let me put that chat up in, or those things in the chat so that you can go ahead and get those links. Otherwise, I'll stick around for a couple minutes. Have a great day. Thanks again, Dominic. Thanks, Kathryn.
Yeah, thanks again for having us.